Most people think they know what a technician does. Wrenches and repairs, get the truck back on the road. But when you actually talk to the people doing the job every day, you realize pretty quickly it's a lot more than that. It's problem solving, it's pressure, it's working through things that don't always have clear answers. And sometimes it's just figuring it out in the moment. Welcome to Shades of Fleet, the Technicians Table, where I asked 6 technicians a few questions about the job, what's changed, and what keeps them going, and what they wish more people understood. Let's hear what they had to share. We started with something simple. What does a good day actually look like? And what makes it a tough one? And the answers weren't just about the work itself. They were about everything around it, the environment, the pressure, and those days where no matter what you do, things just don't go your way.
What does a good day look like for a technician? And what does a tough one look like? It's how big of a challenge they have you're working on a truck and also the environment they're in. I remember days that it was freezing outside in Chicago and I had to work on aircraft outside. Same thing with trucks. Technicians have to sometimes work in the environment. And also very hot days. I've been also in the environment where I had to work in Phoenix or Las Vegas. It's over 100 degrees. So there's a challenge of not always having the ability to be inside in a climate-controlled environment. What kind of concern are you addressing? You may have to do a repair that is a very complex one. And sometimes for a technician, a bad day could be the job was quoted at so many hours, but you have to put more time into it. So it gets to be a challenge sometimes, being the complexity of the repair, trying to diagnose the repair, and also the environmental effects.
A good day would look like really a lot of productivity, a lot of successes within your jobs. And if I'm pulled off of any job to help somebody else or to go on to another job temporarily, I keep really good focus. On the not so good days, the tough days, that would look like broken bolts, stripped bolts, software not wanting to connect, programs not wanting to load, programs taking forever to load, losing programs. Maybe you might just feel off in your cycle and anything you touch just kind of doesn't make you feel successful. Usually I go home on days like that with my brain kind of just not thinking anymore. And those are definitely the days where you pull a lot of lessons from. So tough days aren't that bad. Well, unless you hurt yourself. That can be a tough day.
So a good day is getting to the customers on time, having the units available, having everything we need to get the jobs done scheduled for that day. That's a good day.
When I can leave work at work, no injuries or near misses, completing repairs efficiently without cutting corners, nice weather. When I leave, I know the customer's equipment is in better condition than when I arrived.
A tough day is when you get stuck in traffic or they get there and the unit's not there and you have to reschedule. Those that kind of make it a bad day, or tough day. Not too many tough ones, mostly good ones. So we schedule stuff, we show up, we get stuff done, and we leave.
When it's extremely hot or extremely cold, intermittent faults that won't act up. When I leave mentally exhausted instead of satisfied. When you have to repair something that the previous guy cut corners on.
Well, a good day is when you got plenty of work. You diagnose things pretty easily. You make the repairs. Everything comes apart, goes back together good. The repair was correct. And the vehicle's down the road with no other issues. What makes it a tough one is when that doesn't work out right, when none of that falls in place. Every technician knows that sometimes you get those jobs that, you get your tail handed to you at the end of the day. You spend a lot of time in diagnosing something and you think you've got it figured out. You suggest and make the needed repairs and things don't come apart right. It seems like everything you touch it's just things are just not working right, or you find out after the fact that really didn't solve the whole problem, that there's more issues there. It's nature of the business.
I would say a good day would be having a lot of work to do, because if you don't have a lot of work, obviously you're not making money. having easy diagnostics, or completing your diagnostics quickly and efficiently as you go through the flow chart. That's always a plus. When you hit every mark and everything checks out and you figured it out pretty quickly. For me as well, I liked the weather being good. That always helped the days go by. Doesn't really matter or how bad the day went, as long as it's nice out for me. I mean, I enjoyed it. On a bad day or a tough one, having no work to do, that's never good. Trying to find noises on vehicles can always be a real pain. That's never fun to do, especially when you got to go ride with a customer. And it only happens, going up their driveway at a certain speed. But even then, if you can hear the noise, sometimes it's so bizarre. It's, takes days to find. And then with new vehicles, having the new issues with the new systems, the first model years always have issues. So that's always fun when, you get a brand new vehicle, only a couple hundred miles or maybe a couple thousand miles, and there's a major issue with it and you got to figure it out and there's no info yet. So that's always frustrating. And of course the customer's frustrated. They got a brand new car that they can't use. So that was never fun either. But it's all about how you face it, really. I mean, you can totally make yourself have a bad day getting in your own head about something. So gotta have a good mindset.
From the outside, it's easy to focus on what you can see, the tools, shop, and work getting done. But what doesn't always get recognized is everything happening behind the scenes. The decisions, the judgment calls, the constant problem solving that doesn't come with a manual.
I would say we have to be investigators. A lot of the time, if there's an issue with a vehicle, maybe like an electrical issue that's just so bizarre, usually there's multiple different codes from different systems. If the vehicle looks dirty, inside and out, if it smells a little funny, you can ask questions. If you figure out where the vehicle sits most of the time, a lot of that can lead to a rodent issue. Chewing up wiring harnesses for whatever reason. They love doing that. So we're almost like investigators. We got to, at least for me, I like to get a good look at the car, inside, out, underneath, under the hood, kind of everywhere, just to get a good picture of what's going on with its life. And a lot of those, you put them together, it can really help figure out what's going on, whether it's had, previous work done, if you can find out just by visual inspection, if something looks new or replaced, paint work, body work, stuff like that, those can always lead to other issues if they weren't done correctly. So that's kind of, I feel like, and it can be underestimated.
Mental load and judgment the job actually requires. Most people see the tools and the grease, not the decision making. They rarely get credit for the disasters that didn't happen because they caught something early. Intermittent faults don't always show up on command. Determining whether a fault is electrical, mechanical, environmental, or driver related, and technicians make safety critical decisions constantly.
What's something about being a technician that people in the fleet often underestimate? With the role that I'm currently in, we deal with shops. We overlook what they're requesting for repairs. With the background, we're able to say, hey, why would you be repairing this if this is really what's going on? And those don't always need to be repaired every time. Those are not replaced unless there's a problem. A lot of shops underestimate the knowledge that people in the fleet industry or fleet management industry may have. It's It happens every day.
I feel like the job itself is always underestimated for critical thinking. So you have to learn the system, you have to learn the wire diagrams, you have to know how it works and how each circuit works. And then you have to understand when you're looking at a bunch of codes in which direction to actually go down so you're going down the correct path. All are very, very important, and I think are underestimated when it comes down to critical thinking and finding the root cause to the problem. The next one would have to be your size. I'm a small person in a big world, and I feel like I have so much more room to go around, get sensors, take things apart. I'm taking less apart than other people would have to take more apart to get to a certain part because of how small I am. And then the last one would have to be like skill set, being underestimated because of your skill set. Maybe you haven't been able to reveal a certain skill set, or your underdeveloped skill set. So I think all of those kind of play a role in how technicians are kind of underestimated in fleet.
For a technician, they're like the front line. They don't get the appreciation like they should in many cases. And sometimes the demand, if you're in a smaller operation, sometimes you have to work a lot of late days or even on the weekends to address some concerns. I've had to do that where I've had to maybe go even out of town to go work on a project. It's not always a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday. You're usually working when the trucks are in, usually in the midnight shift. You're working on trucks, or even on the weekends. Trucks run 24/7 in our case.
I think being a lead mobile technician, people underestimate all the logistics involved. We do a lot, so you have to, schedule the appointment, get the PO number, the approval, get all the parts, and then show up to the customer's site and do the repairs. There's a lot involved in that, but I think people underestimate what's all involved in that, because we have to maintain inventory, we have to get everything we need, and show up on time to get it done. So there's a lot involved in being mobile technicians. Unlike a shop where you have parts rooms and parts people, we don't have any of that. So it's all done yourself.
And just as technicians have had to adapt to the job itself has changed. New technology, more systems, higher expectations from customers and fleets. And while tools have gotten more advanced, that doesn't always make the work easier. In a lot of ways, it's just made it more complex.
When I first started out, it wasn't much technology changing a lot in a few years. Now it seems like it changes every year. Scan tools, code readers, electronics used to diagnose problems. All the vehicles now seem to have some sort of new latest electronics. EV vehicles, the technology is always changing and the vehicles are always changing as well. And I think that the expectations sometimes are, oh, you got all the electronics and the technology. That should be simple to diagnose and fix. How come it's not fixed yet? Again, back to the original first question, when you have jobs that sometimes the technology and the scan tools and things like that won't help you diagnose it, or they may get you close, but there's still some things that have to take time into making sure that the job is correct, done correctly, performed right, and down the road.
How has the job changed over the last few years with the new technology, vehicles, and expectations? Well, you think about a truck today, there's over 5 computers on the truck, between the engine, transmission, the body controller, telematics controller, braking controller, and there's nearly, let's say, over 2,000 fault codes that can exist. So with the new technology, trying to keep up to date and understanding all the data that's communicating and how does the computer affect the engine, but then also the expectations. Customers today and the regulations that are happening because of the hours of service requirements, drivers have to get vehicles turned around quicker. Fleets don't have as many spare trucks anymore because the cost of trucks have gone up. So the expectations is get the truck out and running as soon as you can. And sometimes you have to spend a little bit more time. But what's most important is be safe, make sure you're fixing the truck right, and making sure that driver doesn't get broke down again. So it's sometimes challenging, that the environment and the stress you're in. But we got to always do what's right for the driver.
There has been so much that has changed over the last few years and upcoming as well. So there is a lot of new programs with manufacturers from Allison, Cummins, and International all have new programs for diagnostic software. And each of the big four have new engines coming out as well, which is so cool. We have engines with no EGR systems at all. We have 48-volt systems coming out and multiple dozer injectors for after treatment. So there's a lot of new systems coming out. They're all different, and the software is new. We get a lot to learn.
I feel the job has changed with all the technology changes with trucks and vehicles and all electronics in them, from electric steering to all this after treatment systems and telematics where you can, troubleshoot the truck as it's driving down the road. That's been lots of changes for the good, I think. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Some of it's a little frustrating when you're trying to troubleshoot things, and, it can be frustrating.
Most repairs on power units require a diagnostic computer. Customers expect minimal downtime and often don't understand why parts aren't readily available or available the next day. When I started in this field in 2003, there weren't electric vehicles or autonomous vehicles.
You can pretty much diagnose most issues with the scan tools now. So with the OEM systems, the vehicles themselves didn't have the capabilities they do now to run tests and check certain things with the scan tools. And then I would say EV vehicles, you'll have to get a lot of new equipment. In my experience where I worked, we had to get a new lift, an in-ground lift, better hold the heavier vehicles, the EV vehicles, and new technology, especially with the EV vehicles, high voltage, a lot more dangerous than a regular, I would say, non-EV vehicle. And the equipment that comes with new vehicles and new technology too. And, no fault to the customer. They want their car to be perfect when they buy it. So that's their expectation, is their brand new car to stay that way. A lot of times I've gotten complaints for noises or certain things. A lot of times how it drives, the shift patterns in the transmission. If the customer's kind of new to the brand or just to the vehicle in general, it's going to feel a little different for them, and to them it feels wrong, when in reality it's perfectly fine. Although noises of brand new vehicles, noises can sometimes pop up, and those are hard to figure out, where it's coming from, because it's brand new. It could come from anywhere. It could be, especially with the newer vehicles, with how everything's kind of modular almost. You can almost, take apart a dash just piece by piece, almost like Legos, so there's a lot of pieces, a lot of materials that make up the vehicle and driving it down the road. And then the downtime on parts, before, we could get usually parts within a couple days, even transmissions. But now it seems like anymore, if you try to get a transmission, it's going to be weeks, maybe months. A lot of things can be on back order, especially with brand new cars. And then you got a brand new car that's down for months. Doesn't make anybody in that situation happy. No one wants to, especially the customer. And that's who you're trying to please ultimately. So that's always difficult when there's really nothing you can do other than wait.
So with all of that, the long days, the pressure, the constant change, what keeps technicians coming back? Because the motivation isn't always what you'd expect. Sometimes it's the challenge. Sometimes it's the independence. And sometimes it's just the satisfaction of figuring it out.
I show up every single day with enthusiasm. I don't think that I could do this job without it. So even when I do run into a hard or tough spot, enthusiasm helps me through most of it. I look at every job with like this pure excitement that I'm going to solve this problem that somebody else couldn't, and that's why it's here. Or I'm going to be able to fix and repair this problem, and I actually did it. So that's like the big takeaway, is that when you have a problem and I'm able to look at it, diagnose it, and repair it, and then drive off with it, that's what I keep in the back of my mind, that each job is going to have a success and it's going to be at the end. To get through that journey, sometimes, you have good days and you have hard days, and some are easier and some are harder. But, having the pure excitement and the passion to be in this industry, I think it's really what holds me together every single day.
What helps motivate me is, as a mobile technician, you're by yourself. So you're 100% mobile. No one's, breathing down your neck or looking over your shoulder. So what motivates me is the freedom of my job. So I'm by myself. I can, get my job done, do what I need to do during the day, and repeat. So what motivates me is just the independence of it. Having the dedicated customers that I work with that request me and me only, that's what motivates me.
I think about some of the frustrating days is, dealing with concerns where you don't have the right tools or you don't have the right parts, and you have to wait for parts to come in, or you have to figure out a way to fix the part that's broken because you may not have the part. So I've had it where people sent me parts in the old days when I was working on airplanes, and they forgot to send gasket sets, and I had to figure out a way to make things work. And it's frustrating, but sometimes people don't do the job and give you the tools for you to be successful. But you got to be able to forecast what could happen. You got to maybe communicate prior. Hey, make sure we get these seals. I need this fluid. So you get the one time to get the right things that you need in your job. It could be tools, parts, etc.
Money's a motivator for everybody, I feel like. If you got a lot of work, that sets more money. Easy work is easy money. And then for me, I tried to do everything I could to help the client or the customer resolve their issues, whether it was what I was actually doing or maybe straying off and doing something else, helping them in a different way, or even just kind of talking it over with them, making them understand kind of what's going on and why this is happening and this is normal. Just stepping outside the box a little bit, doing what you can, even if it's not your job title. That's always nice after the fact that you especially when you get the feedback from the customer directly saying, they appreciate the help, or, whatever their gratitude is. It goes a long way. Just like a customer's gratitude for your help, your company's gratitude for your help, equally as important. That's definitely motivating to work for somebody who has that gratitude for their employees.
Knowing that shortcuts could affect somebody's life, knowing that if you go above and beyond for a customer, they won't want anyone else working on their equipment, even if it costs them more for you than it does for the next guy. Treating each piece of equipment I work on as it's my own, guaranteeing that I have met or exceeded customer expectations.
As a technician, there's going to be tasks, there's going to be repairs, there's going to be things that you really don't want to do because it's a pain or it's time consuming, or, you're going to have the jobs you like to do and the jobs you don't. But the only way to get through that is to keep pushing through it, because the only way to get it done is to buckle down, jump in there, get focused, and get through it. Even on the frustrating days, because the more you dwell on it, the more you procrastinate and not want to stay focused on it, the longer the job's going to end up being. And then in the end of the day, the more frustrating the day is going to end up. So there's nothing like tackling that job you don't like to do, getting it done, and looking back at the end of the day and saying, well, that wasn't as worse as I thought it was going to be. So you just got to push through it and hope that you got a better day tomorrow.
But zoom out a little and the challenges get bigger. It's not about one job or one day anymore. It's about the pace of the work and the expectations, the pressure to keep everything moving. And in a lot of cases, what's happening behind the scenes isn't always fully understood.
I would say one thing that's challenging is parts and logistics. So I had a truck that I ordered parts from the body manufacturer for a truck. Got the parts in. One of the 3 parts was wrong, but you can't install the other 2 because the first one is wrong. So that's something that, people need to understand. We can order parts, say they estimated ETA is a Monday, but the part cannot show up till Wednesday. So that puts us in a bind with the customer because, hey, we thought Monday, we're going to schedule it for Tuesday. No, we got the part Wednesday, we're going to have to schedule it for Thursday or Friday. And then just, stuff just comes up. You'll have tire issues, you could have a flat tire, you could have different things. So there's just lots of logistical things that will come up that will make our job very challenging as technicians. Weather. You could have a day where you could be working in straight downpour rain or hail or something like the weather's bad that will cause you to work slower or have to reschedule or take too long to get to the customer. So those are the challenges we face, and also with technology. So technology is good, but technology could also face challenges when you have apps freeze, different things like that will cause the technician to get frustrated.
I think the challenge is, there is a big competition out there. Pay is probably a big area. Some technicians feel they're undervalued for their job. But I think you're seeing a trend where a lot of people are investing in the facilities and people. So it's really the challenge is for a technician, make sure you're providing the training. The trucks today are getting more and more complex. If you look at electrification, automation, you look at automatic braking systems, tire inflation systems are now starting to come out, extended life on the oils. They need to be aware of how everything plays together. They need to be trained on it properly. So work with your manufacturers to provide training and make sure you're investing in your people so they feel professional about their job and are aware of it.
There's a lot going on that with technicians that they face every day trying to fix something with all the technical stuff. Sometimes they have to reach out to, if they're at a dealer or something, sometimes they have to reach out to a technical engineer for assistance because with the electronics, it can be difficult to fix items that you got to pinpoint what's going on. Sometimes you got to reach out to them for help. And again, that takes extra time communicating back and forth with them, doing things. It's costly when you go to get that education. That's another thing. It's the tooling that most techs have to work to provide. It can add up.
The newer vehicles are becoming a lot more complex. The automotive industry is always expanding and testing new things and new technology. That's the only way to really move forward. So that is on top of, the previous generations. You have to learn the new procedures, new equipment, new technology on the newer vehicles. If you're a good, competent tech, which everybody should be, you're always going to want to learn more. You have to learn, what you're working on, your product. So you're basically always figuring out something new all the time. The mental and physical stress that the job can have goes, the mental part of it goes along with the new tech and being motivated. You can, like I said earlier, you can get in your own head and make it a bad day, but relying on a positive outlook to because you're not going to get anywhere with a bad attitude going into working on something new. So the mental aspect of it is equally as important, especially with physical strength too, because everything's getting heavier. Especially with EV stuff, get a lot more dangerous too. So those are things to think about.
I feel we should be paying more attention to retention and technician appreciation. After we recruit and then we get them into our building, I feel like a lot of companies have a tendency to kind of forget about the technician themselves. Through mentorships and different appreciation programs that we can incentivize technicians to retain their position and want to continue working for our companies and stay in this industry.
So, if someone is thinking about becoming a technician today, what does that path really look like? Not the polished version, not the recruiting pitch, but the real version from the people who've lived it.
You build real, valuable skills, and you take those skills with you when you decide to move on in your career. There's great earning potential without a degree. You're hard to replace once you've proven yourself. Quite a few of my mentors along the way have moved into leadership roles. The real would be the work is hard sometimes physically and mentally. Technology has changed the job. Pressure and blame can land on you. The early years can be rough. Find a good mentor. Don't hesitate to ask questions and always be willing to learn.
Okay, so one of my favorite parts about this industry is that you constantly need to be educated. There's always new product coming out. We have new softwares coming out, new engines coming out, and diagnostics are not all the same. So ongoing education is probably one of my favorite parts to this industry. Self-successes. I love being challenged in my field, and when I have a unit pull up on a hook and it's a no crank, no start, I get to go out there, diagnose it, I repair it, and then I get to see that truck just drive off. And I think that is one of the most rewarding feelings that you can get at the end of the day when you have either a very good day or even a hard day. Watching that truck drive off in the distance, that's one of the best feelings. I definitely have to say the real is to surround yourself with people that want you to be successful. Surround yourself with people that want to see you rise and achieve goals and get better at what you are. Surround yourself with people that want to mentor you and want to share their experiences with you in tips or tricks. I think it's very important to make sure you're not surrounded by people that have egos. Surround yourself with people that want to be in the industry. I think that's extremely, extremely important mentally as well. And if you're a female in this industry, I have to say, there are female uniforms out there. By Red Cap, UniFirst, if you're doing a rental uniform company, they do offer female pants. So for safety, you should advocate for yourself. You do not have to be wearing a man's uniform, just so you're aware. You can't go wrong being in this industry. There's so many different parts to this industry. Again, mentorships, when you find a niche like electric or welding or engine rebuild and repair, transmission, hydraulics, you name it, you could do upfitting. There's so many endless jobs that you can actually go and do. So if you're sick of doing one part of your job, there is another job out there for you to try. And I think that's the best part. It's ever evolving, you have so much education continuously going on around you, and there's always new things to learn, no matter what. You'll never get bored in this industry.
Starting out, if you're green, I mean, you're you're not going to make the best money in the world. That's just a fact. You get paid more when you become a better technician. You're not going to get paid the same as the guy that's been doing it for 40 years, coming in the door. So a lot of it is knowledge goes further than memorizing the vehicle you're working on or anything like that. If you want to make it in this field as a technician, you're going to have to adapt and learn, always learning, always figuring out new things. You have to like it too. And I feel like that goes with most jobs, but if you don't like working with your hands or getting dirty, sweaty, cold, you're not going to make it. You're going to have those days where you're probably going to want to quit. I've had it multiple times, but that's part of it. I can't tell you any other tech I've met that is, I'm going to quit. This is BS or something like that. So that's to be expected. That'll happen. Especially because it can be frustrating, extremely frustrating, vehicles. It's a love-hate, and then once you get past that and you figure something out and you fix it, if you got something that's been troubling you forever, it's the best feeling in the world to finally be done with it. It's kind of nice seeing it leave too, when they drive. And, taking your time, doing the diagnostic procedure step by step. For me, those were the best. The flow charts, you follow the directions. Step 1, step 2, you do all that. You do it completely. Okay, this is the issue. And you can double check it. Ask for help too. Always ask for help if it's available. There's no shame, especially in this. You want to get it done. You don't want to have a comeback. You don't want to repair it and have it come back the next day or not leave. So doing it right the first time, asking for help, take your time, and that can be kind of a touchy subject, I'm sure, for some technicians, because time is money for the most part. But it's not going to do you any good if you fly through something and then have to do it all over again. I've done that, and it's not fun. So take your time. Didn't do it right the first time. It can be fun, terrible, boring, exciting. Like it can be all over the place. You're gonna have crappy days, and it'll pass. Leave it at work if at all possible. Don't bring your frustrations home. It doesn't do anybody good. Start fresh the next day. Get some help. That's the real. For someone just becoming a technician, like, you're not going to know everything by any means. Find the most seasoned technician there and just bug them, ask them lots of questions. If they're older, if they've been in the industry for a while, they've seen, way more than you have.
It's a career that is very rewarding. It's hard. I've seen a lot of technicians come out of school. They are told by the recruiter of the school that once you come out of school, you'll be making top dollar. You'll be doing all the top repairs. That's not the case. You're going to have to start out low, doing the minor work, minor repairs, work your way into the medium repairs, and work your way on up to the major repairs. You're going to get dirty. You're going to have to invest in tools. Don't get caught up in, I got to have the biggest toolbox, or I got to have a big shiny toolbox, because there's nothing worse than seeing a technician that can't afford to buy tools because he's trying to pay off a big toolbox that's empty. Start with set yourself so much a month, and when you get that paid off, add to it. As you do the jobs that you're given, the repairs that you're given, you'll kind of know what tools you need and kind of what you got to start working on, what you got to look forward towards buying. Just do it a little at a time, because that's going to be your biggest cost is tooling. Find a company to work for that's going to invest in your continued education. Again, the way technology changes every year, you got to stay up on top of that. You got to, you learn stuff new every day. It's changed so much over the years. It's hard to imagine looking back how far it's changed and how technology is always changing now compared to what it was when I started. As a former service manager or even a seasoned technician, always ask questions as a new technician. Don't feel that it's embarrassing to ask for help or ask for guidance or assistance. There's nothing worse than a minor or a medium repair turning into a catastrophic repair because you took something apart that you wasn't sure of. You put something back together you wasn't sure of, and it caused more damage. And now it's bad. Trust me. When you have those things come up, you're going to wish you asked. So there's nothing wrong with asking more experienced technician or going to the service manager or your boss or whoever. You can work your way up in this career, but I think the only way you're going to work your way up is to do every job that you do, every repair that you do it better than you did the last repair. Whether you've done it millions of times and you can do it in your sleep with your eyes closed, whatever, always do each repair better than you did the last one. And if you always go into that mindset, or you always have that mindset and you always go into each repair and you always look back after, you always do that. One of the biggest accomplishments I always enjoyed was, going down the road on the interstate or anywhere and looking over and seeing a truck that I rebuilt the engine in. It's still going. But the only way you're going to stand out above the other technicians is doing each job better than you did the last one, each repair better than you did the last one. Always be willing to learn. You're going to stand out because there's technicians that they do what they got to do and they make shortcuts. And most of the time that stuff comes back as a comeback, costs the company you work for more money or even the customer more money. So always try to do the job better than you did the last one. And you'll actually move up quicker than a lot of others. There's going to be days that you're going to get dirty. You're going to get grungy. You're going to feel like, why am I doing this? But you just got to keep pushing through it. I mean, if you really like working with your hands, it's a good career. Getting the technical experience of tearing something apart and repairing it doesn't just help you in the automotive industry or the truck or equipment industry. I mean, it helps you with doing everything, whether it's working on your kid's bicycle or fixing a refrigerator or stove or whatever. I mean, it using that experience that you get over the years kind of helps you in repairing other things in life. It could be a good career. But you got to stick to it, and you got to be willing to do the hard work now, because you can work yourself up into management. You can work yourself up into owning your own shop. There's so much opportunity there. But it all starts with be willing to learn things, be willing to ask questions, and be willing to take pride in the work you do and do it better than you've done the last one.
What I will tell them as a technician is be prepared to spend a lot of money to get tools. Be prepared to work hard and be prepared to get dirty. The good thing about it is be prepared to learn something new every day. Because as a technician now, I still learn something new every day. The bad is most technicians, when you come in, you have to learn the basics before you can do anything else. So I'll be willing to learn, ask questions, and work hard. That's what I would tell technicians coming in.
I was blessed, because I was able to come into a vehicle manufacturer. And There's a lot of great technicians out there, and a lot of the owners of fleets and fleet directors are friends of mine. They may not like to hear this, but it's really about career development. Don't just stop and say, I'm going to be a technician. Be the best technician. Put your time in, but also look at the career path that you can face. You someday will become hopefully a shop foreman, manager, fleet manager, but also be thinking about the other areas that are needing support. You can work with a vehicle manufacturer or a component manufacturer, being a technical expert for them. It's other areas that people need, and it's a career path I need to make sure that you're aware of, so you can also be thinking about yourself and your family.
At the end of the day, one thing is clear. This isn't just a job. It's a career that's constantly evolving, one that demands a lot, but gives a lot back. And like these folks said, you're not just fixing equipment, you're solving problems, you're making decisions that matter, and you're keeping things moving, sometimes against the odds. So whether you've been in the industry for years or you're just starting to figure it out, there's probably more going on behind the scenes than people realize. Thanks for watching this episode of Shades of Fleet Technicians Table. If you're just joining us, make sure you check out our new voices in fleet, Black voices in fleet, women in fleet, and more. And stay tuned, our next episode coming up is Veterans in Fleet. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned.